Hey, security peeps. We are here with another edition of Breaking Into Cybersecurity. It is CISO Thursdays. I was rocking out to our music.
Courtesy of DJ Azar.
Right, courtesy of DJ James Azar that hooked us up. I am Renee Small, cybersecurity super recruiter, helping awesome leaders hire great talent. We have an awesome crew, the full crew, plus a bonus member who I feel like is a part of the crew anyway, here today. So we will go around. My fabulous co-host, Chris Foulon.
Co-host, cyber risk consultant, and career coach. On to ladies first, Naomi Buckwalter.
Hi guys. I'm Naomi Buckwalter, and I love helping people break into cybersecurity. So let's do this. Let's go.
Let's do this. The James Azar.
Hello, everyone. James Azar, host of the CISO Talk and Cyber Hub podcast. CISO, just trying to do good for our community, boost it up. Can I introduce Paul? Can I please introduce Paul?
Go for it.
Ladies and gentlemen, get ready for a veteran, a naval veteran, a power player, a power producer, Paul Cummings.
Thanks for that intro, James.
Yeah.
I want that network infiltration.
We need some
music
confetti.
Hi, everybody. Paul Cummings. I'm a cybersecurity research engineer for Stevenson Technologies Corporation. And my passion is helping veterans and career pivoters get into the IT and cybersecurity space.
Yes, Paul, we love the work that you're doing. So Paul is here today. We have tons of we have a good topic, I think, today. Paul is here.
Before you have to hit that subscribe button. If you're on YouTube, that notification button down there as well, so you get notified. And if you're listening to us on podcasts, don't forget to subscribe on all the major podcast platforms and share it with all your friends.
And give us a 5-star rating. 5-star rating.
5-star rating. And we have other things to pitch too, like our books and everybody else's podcast. But we got tons of stuff for y'all to break into security. Okay, so we have awesome topics today. First and foremost, everybody that is here, chime in. Let us know where you are here from. We always like to see people who are chiming in. Good afternoon, CISO Thursday crew. Who is that? All you shadow LinkedIn users got to turn your stuff on. Nicholas, hey Nick, Renee Small is the best. No, you are the best. Nicholas Shalin. I got to get you back on the podcast on leadership stuff soon, Nicholas.
He's retiring soon, so he might be free.
What? Oh yeah, we gotta get you on fast then. Zoe says subscribe, and John says it's the gang +1. Nice to see everyone. Thank you. So Paul is here. We're gonna kick it off with Paul first, so Paul can talk about the
Boots to Books
conference and career fair that we are all participating in tomorrow, Friday, the 23rd, the 24th. We want to make sure everyone knows about it. So Paul, I am going to kick it off to you so you can tell us. You will infuse this during the rest of the podcast, but we definitely want to start off by saying what an amazing job you're doing by getting veterans and career pivoters into cybersecurity. It is obviously it's near and dear to all of our hearts here in the Breaking Into Security space, and we love what you're doing. So you have the spotlight, my friend. Go for it.
So tomorrow we're hosting a veterans-only IT and cybersecurity-only job fair. Myself and Jeremiah Parker back in July, who's another Breaking Into Cyber alum, we were just normal veterans that had insomnia one night that stayed up till 3 a.m. And we were talking about this horrible hiring process that, is plaguing for the last 3 years now. So we got together and we're like, man, I wonder if we can get, a group of people together for hiring managers and see if we can get some people, to talk directly to hiring managers and bypass a lot of the ATS and interviews. Then it turned into reaching out to Peter Klein from Boots to Books Next thing you know, we have a full-on job fair. So definitely excited. A lot of preparation has been put into this. Between Chris Foulon and myself, we moderate a Discord server full of vets. Additionally held that career fair prep last month. So looking forward to seeing how much time and effort people have put into to really focus on this job fair.
Let's talk about the effort that you put into the job fair. Like, how many companies did you reach out to, and what sort of traction did you get with having them come to the fair tomorrow?
Well, oddly enough, back in July when I first started reaching out to recruiters, it was too far out. We didn't have a flyer, so a lot of the connections were kind of dead on arrival because we didn't have the meet to show them. But I reached out to a lot of the companies that I had hiring manager friends and connections with. Amazon Web Services, Royal Caribbean, Tech Systems, RTL Networks. So we were able to get a total of 13 companies to come out to represent recruiter booths. 0 fees. Biggest takeaway is we wanted to sponsor a job fair where recruiters didn't have to feel they had to pay to come see talent. We also added in Vets to Industry, a great organization that I volunteer with, have been since March now. And it kind of streamlined how I created my own YouTube initiative where I'm hosting my monthly mentorship events. And a lot of the hiring managers and recruiters that come to there are actually the ones I reached out to for this event. So it's kind of a blessing. They know the talent, they know the soft skills, they know the hard skills that veterans and career pivoters bring into the mix. And all of them seem 100% excited to be there. AWS Intel, a brand new division, they're going to be representing. They are pushing 7 recruiters and I think 2 or 3 hiring managers on site for the job fair. So some potential offers on the table for some highly qualified candidates. So definitely looking forward to it. And then a lot of the networking, between Renee, Chris, James, and the followers that you all have, it made it easy to really connect with the folks that I connected with to get this happening.
What networking's all about, right?
Exactly.
So talk about some of the talent that will be there. Like, what are some of their backgrounds based on interacting with them and that you've seen?
And Paul, you said over 200 or 300 people have resumes are already in there, right?
We got 221 registered with resumes. And then obviously a lot of registration folks for people that just want to see the keynote speeches and hang out in our chat lounge. As far as talent, obviously you got several branches: Army, Navy, Marines, Air Force. I think maybe there was one Space Force person in there. Coast Guard.
Wait, there's people leaving Space Force already? It just started.
I mean, so you have the pre-commissioning group, right? So
Right.
the group that goes in there and they establish it, they're probably already tired and they're like, oh, okay, I'm ready.
It's the uniforms, the new uniforms.
Oh no, you got to think a lot of the Space Force folks are career transitioners from branch to, going from Air Force or Army to Space Force, Navy to Space Force. So yeah, it's probably around their time. They're just ready to clock out. But some of the talent you're looking at, we have infantrymen, and women who generally are the jack of all trades, Swiss Army knife of the military. When you think about some of the translation skills they bring, you got the fact that they know human behavior. They know how to do evidence collection. Obviously, attention to fine detail, leading small project teams, whether it's, cordoning off a building for a search, setting up perimeter checks, working with your local law enforcements. We also have a lot of the traditional IT and cyber folks that, are looking for their post IT cyber career. So coming in with a lot of project management and leadership skills. I think we have a bosun's mate, the ones that drive the ships, small boats, they're coming out. So it's a hodgepodge of multi-facet talents across the board. You figure between anybody that's done at least 5 to 7 years, they've been emerged into leadership roles. So what we've done is impress upon them to capitalize on their hard and soft skills and then focus on the foundational footprint of the cyber roles they are interested in. That way, when it comes to the ageism or anything like that they're going to meet, they can, apply for these mid to senior level roles that me personally, as a 20-year vet, wasn't applying for. I thought I had to go entry level all over again. So, it's been a long time coming, since August or October last year. A lot of heartache, a lot of failures that have turned into success. And, I'm looking forward to seeing as many folks hired as there possibly can be on tomorrow's event.
Awesome. I think it's fantastic. I want to know if we can put some of those people on our 221 and 2021 list if they get hired.
I don't see why not, because a lot of them went to Chris's career fair prep course.
I hear you. I agree. So, couple comments here. Daniel's going to connect with you. Daniel Lucherfeld, I'm going to put it up here. He's with a company, AlgoSec, global leader in the network security space, and the HR department has asked to forward various listings. So you can connect with him. What I love about this conference is that anything that is, when some of the things that I know from a corporate or I guess non-government sector, because I think a lot of veterans tend to move into the government, and the government sector can translate. And one of the things that you're doing, Paul, which I think is fantastic, is having that pivot, that translatable, what you're doing in the military and translating that to what could be done in the corporate setting. And that these people who signed up specifically either are veterans, have worked with veterans, so understand that kind of transition. So it's not like a complete, they're not just shocked when they see a resume. Well, you've been working with them on the resumes and sharing kind of like tips and tricks, and Chris has been doing so as well. But then the folks that are there are not, completely brand new to this type, to seeing a resume and seeing the types of skills that are on there. So I'm excited for it, and we're all participating in one way or another. I know Naomi is one of the keynotes, right? And then James, are you in there too?
At some point, I believe. I've got to look at my schedule. I don't even know what's going on tomorrow. Like, I'll wake up and I'll figure it out.
That's right. Baby James is coming, so he's busy. So Paul, we are beyond excited to be participants, B, have you on here as an official guest, because we feel like you're always chiming in on the sidelines anyway. So it just made perfect sense for you to be on here now. So we're going to show boots2books.vfairs.com. That is the career fair. Everyone check it out. Make sure, share with your friends, share it around. We definitely want to get people hired. We can't wait to talk about in a couple weeks, hopefully, how many people have gotten hired from this career fair. So super excited about that. Frank says he's excited for the event tomorrow. He's going to be there. Daniel was making some comments. Let's see. Chris, Chris Frazier, good afternoon, you beautiful people. Good afternoon to you, beautiful human. Sterling says, I look forward to this each week. He's tuning in from San Diego. Woohoo! And Joseph is here from New Orleans. Joey is here from Austin, which is awesome. Palmy 197, John Dela Cruz, and Zoe, our faithful folks, are here. Very, very exciting. Frank is one of our first responder law enforcement people. That is fantastic. So now, Chris wants to know, does this include veterans as well? Yeah.
Oh, veterans, military spouses, military dependents, and first responders, and then transitioning service members, obviously.
Yep. Exactly.
Yeah, I think, Paul, would you mind expanding on the transitioning service members? I think a lot of people in civilians don't understand. A lot of people think you're in the military, and then on Tuesday you get discharged. So on Monday they call you in and go, "Hey, Paul, tomorrow you leave the military," and that's not always true. Would you mind just expanding a little bit about what does it mean to be a service member? Plus, while you're doing that, explain how companies can get involved in order to take these transitioning service members up early.
Oh, absolutely. So normally when you retire, which is what I did, you submit your paperwork 24 months out from your EOS, your end of obligated service. From there, once it gets approved, you start going through the standard checks where you do, you go through a transition program. You go through twice. The second time is a capstone event where they go through your financial budget and stuff like that. That was actually one of my heartaches back in October, and why I started doing a lot of the initiative, because we were taught traditional resumes. That you would walk in person and hand off to that person behind a desk, or sign that piece of paper saying you're ready to talk to a hiring manager. Chris just mentioned SkillBridge. So 180 days out from your separation date, you're allowed to do a SkillBridge with a DoD SkillBridge company. If you, well, you got to get accredited through the DoD. So it's not that hard of a process.
It's actually really easy. It's just one. Yep. It might be the easiest government program to ever get on. Is DoD SkillBridge. It really is. I think it's like 4 forms.
Yeah. 4 forms. Then you got the hardest part is obviously the different branches. They run their own DoD SkillBridge programs differently. Obviously, if you're a service member that is in the Navy and you're out to sea, you might not be awarded that opportunity because you're on a mission. Same thing with Army or Marines that are downrange. Coast Guard, I think, has their own version of a SkillBridge. And then Air Force maximizes the heck out of it. A lot of the folks that I've seen with the Air Force, as soon as they're in the 1-year mark, they start, getting into pipelines for education courses, and then they line up for these companies where you go do an internship for free. You're still getting paid by Uncle Sam. So, you get to go test pilot the civilian life. You get to recalibrate your mindset, because now you're talking to people that don't understand your military humor or your acronyms, because we all have acronyms. They don't understand the banter between the services, like we talked about the Air Force or Chair Force, or Space Cadets and stuff like that. But yeah, it's a rough program, or a rough time in a service member's life to transition. And it's not just the service members, it's the spouses and family members as well. We normally only spend 3 to 5 years in one spot. So if you think of that, you get a lot of imposter syndrome that comes into it. We don't do the same role everywhere we go, unless you have the luxury of being in the Air Force or Space Force, where you train to that talent, and that talent is what you're going to do. You don't become a multifaceted service member. But a grueling process. You go through the VA checklist, make sure that, everything that you've ever went to medical for is on there. And you go from there. And then, the last thing I would mention is, as a service member is transitioning, if you see them looking at these boot camps for certifications, a lot of them are looking for their GI Bill, taking 9 months at a time for 1 to 2 certifications.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And I included the links for SkillBridge as well as how to apply for anyone that's interested in the comment section. And one of the comments is they're surprised how many people don't take advantage of this program. And that's one of the reasons we want to talk about it and to have that visibility of all the amazing opportunities that could be available. And if you find a company that you want to work for, encourage them to work with SkillBridge to hire you on if you've made a great connection with a hiring manager there.
Yeah, there's some companies out there that provide the apprenticeship training as well, where you might sign up for a SkillBridge and come out of there A+, Net Plus, or Sec Plus certified, depending on the different type of organization that you're trying to get with.
Actually, we're talking tomorrow on Breaking Into Cybersecurity with one of those individuals. She went through SmoothStack's apprenticeship program, and she now has a role at a cyber company. So got the training and then got the role.
Very awesome. Very awesome. Rolanda says, thank you so much for having me. Is Rolanda in the part of this? John Dela Cruz says, not just monthly pay, but insurance and medical too is still with Uncle Sam, and just about any industry can get on SkillBridge. I know a guy who's working for a car dealership. So definitely great opportunities here in the SkillBridge space. So folks, anything else, Paul, that you want to say before we move over into our topic?
No, I think we pretty much covered it. We got the job fair tomorrow. Come out, register. Even if you just want to register to come see the keynote speeches and hang out with us in the lounge after.
Yeah. boots2books.vfairs.com. Check it out. It is amazing, or I know it's going to be amazing. So, okay. Next up, our hot topic. Should we have Mr. James Azar kick this one off?
Yeah, let me kick this one off. All right, here's the deal. Excuse me. Hang on, get ready, y'all. So I had the pleasure on Tuesday to actually do an in-person event. So excuse my voice. My voice has been off today. I'm not sick or anything. I'm just exhausted. I've had back-to-back events every single day this week. Literally, I've got an event tonight. Like, everything's apparently we're back in person. So I'm exhausted. I've been doing 21-hour days for the last 4 days. So my voice is a little choppy, but I want to get to a conversation I had on Tuesday with a CISO. And we were going back and forth. So for everyone watching and listening, just so you know, we all disagree on this. So don't go anywhere. Stay right here because it's about to get fiery and feisty. I'm talking to a Fortune 100 a deputy CISO at the event on Tuesday, who we're talking about helping people break into cybersecurity, our passion. And he goes, I'm worn out. He goes, I'm burnt out on bringing in people and into my organization. He goes, we hire people who want to break into cyber. He goes, they have crap resumes. They do crap at the interview, but we still want to give them a chance. So we bring them on. We invest in getting them up to skill, and then 6 to 9 months later, they bounce to the first other proposal they get that gives them $5 more a month just to kind of piece out. And he goes, and it's not just once. We're seeing kind of a pattern of this. And he goes, it's coming to a point where it just doesn't make sense to the business. So the question is, we don't want to give up on breaking into cybersecurity. We always talk about how can we get hiring managers and companies to open up their books and take it. And now I've been hearing one side of this, and all of a sudden on Tuesday I get poof. I get the other side blow up in my face, and I found myself going, let's talk to the people wanting to break into cyber. Where's your loyalty, just a little bit, to the people who help you make it into the industry? And now, I know Naomi's got something to say about this. I can see it in her eyes.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, I'm ready.
I am your rebuttal at this case. All right. So here's the deal. We want people to break into cybersecurity because we need more defenders overall. So does it matter if the person does cybersecurity in other companies? I think no. I think the fact that you're hiring and training, that's awesome. That's what we need. But we need more people to do that. It should come back to you. Hopefully, if other companies are hiring and training the next generation, you will get that tide of candidates coming back to you, right? You don't want to feel bad about releasing the people that you're training because you're still in cybersecurity. And isn't that the greater good? Isn't it the fact that we want more defenders overall? I don't understand what is this whole like ownership of the candidates that you started with. Like that's,
I don't think it's so. I don't think it's ownership. I actually think it's business, right? It's the idea of ROI. Because here's the thing, when you help people break into cyber, I know, Chris, hang on. Capitalism is bad. I know. All right, hang on, Chris. All right.
So that's my line.
This for just a second, because there's one aspect of this that's really, really critical. When a CISO, he's not a top line decision maker. He gets a budget, he gets time, and hiring and onboarding someone and getting them trained to do a job has an X amount of cost to a company. And if you've never sat in that role, it's very hard for you to envision it, right? I agree with Naomi about the greater good, but when it's a, I don't know if it's a pattern or if it's one person, right? And I'm doing a survey right now to actually see if this is a pattern or if this is just a toxic company, because those do exist. And if you're in a toxic situation, you should get out, right? That's not the aspect. The aspect is we need to understand that when a company hires you and brings you on to train you, what they're saying is we're going to invest in you. And our hope is that you're going to return that investment by working with us and advancing your career with us. And sometimes you're bringing on these entry-level roles where the way forward has a 12 to 18-month track. Right. So you're not after 6 months, you're not going to be a manager. Like, forget that. You know, you can do that at McDonald's, possibly Starbucks. If you've got a liberal arts degree, then that's typically like how you start. All right. But when you're breaking into security and you're bringing someone in, there is that aspect of we're going to give you a lot of knowledge. And we do want you to kind of stick around for a little bit so we get a little bit of our investment back. Because when you don't, what ends up happening is you end up ruining it downstream for everyone else. And I'll go back to something that Naomi posted about a month ago on LinkedIn. You may or may not remember it, but it was about the job market and how one guy who was an engineer was triple working, meaning he was making 3 times the salary, working for 3 different companies.
It was 10 companies,
yeah. And because he's like, I'm working from home and no one knows. And those specific people ruin it for everyone else downstream, because now HR is going to come and say, sorry, you're hiring interns and breaking into cybersecurity people is no longer approved. It's costing us too much money than it's worth. We're sorry, you can't do it anymore. And now one door that was open just closed. And that's the other side of this argument.
My recommendation is to come in somewhere in the middle before I jump. And that is to set up career paths, set up retention and incentives or contracts, working contracts, that if you invest the training, that they would have to pay that back if they don't stay for 1 or 2 years.
That's what I have.
And then
Yep.
and then that's the way that you do it.
That's how you do it.
I gotta go, folks. Thank you very much.
Thank
See
you,
all
Chris.
later.
I want to add one more
In and
thing
out.
to what James was saying. You know, the fact that we're training these people and they're leaving, you know, like that is a problem with the ROI, but it's really not that expensive, honestly, James. Like the more I think about it, I'm like, we're really not paying these people top money. Yeah, like you're entry level, you're not going to be expected to earn a lot, and so they don't actually get paid that much. And so if you're trying to make the case that the business doesn't get their ROI, like honestly, they're not going to get the ROI. And think about hiring someone at the mid-senior or senior level. they're going to be paid like 3 times as much, honestly. Like, so I would rather take somebody and pay them kind of like dirt cheap. I know I'm like super of a cheap person, but like I'd rather train them, give them the opportunity to learn, and then release them. I'm okay with that. I am okay with that, honestly. I want to see them grow. It's better for the industry.
No. So I agree with you. I do want to see people grow. And I know there's a bunch of comments for Renee, so just a second. I agree with you. I do want to see people grow. I'm not against that. But what I'm saying is, you know, I feel like our generation, we've gone from 2 extremes. So if we go back to our parents and grandparents, they worked in a company for 30, 40 years. So the other night, I was exhausted on Sunday night. I wanted to see something. My wife, who's awesome and 36 weeks pregnant, was asleep. And I watched Rudy. How many of you guys remember Rudy? Right? Like one of the greatest all-time American movies. It's like Rudy and Remember the Titans. It's football season. So you want to watch football movies, right? And I'm watching Rudy, and you kind of, the subplot of Rudy as a whole in that true story is that the dad and all the brothers and all the friends in that whole town worked in that steel mill, right? They all worked in that one plant, and you worked in that plant until you died.
He froze. I think he's trying to say our generation are a bunch of snowflakes, and like the other generations are harder at working, and therefore they're like,
James.
Yeah, you're trying to tell us we're all snowflakes.
I'm telling you,
James.
it's the shadow ban. When I speak the truth, the internet gods are screw you, Hazar. Screw you.
Yeah, it's the Chinese. They own everything. You have a point. You have a point. Like our generation, the millennials, literally have never gone through any hardships. Like, did we go to war? Not really. Like Afghanistan, yes. Right. But like none of us were enlisted. Like I certainly don't know anybody my age that actually went to Afghanistan. So yeah, I get that. There's an element of like we didn't have anything to overcome, and therefore we don't have the stamina and the grit and the resiliency of other generations. I get that. But like, what's the point of life? Is the point of life to grind it out and to survive, or is it to enjoy life and to be nice to each other and to like help society, right? Like what is the point of life? What is the point of life?
The point of life is just that. You're right. The point of life is just that. I'm not saying that people need to go and work in a company for 40 years and sign off their life, but a little bit of loyalty for people who open the door for you goes a long way in making sure that that door stays open for generations to come.
Who says they're not? Just by leaving doesn't mean they're not loyal. They can always bring back other candidates for them. It's
great.
Karma. It comes back.
Wonderful. So you just brought up a point. You get a job offer somewhere else and someone opened the door for you. Go to your boss, say, listen, I'm getting a better position somewhere else. I know we're not in the position to hire someone, but I do have a few candidates that I can think of that might be able to fill my role.
Why not?
Make the life seamless. But how many of those people actually do that? And how many of them just write an email that says, here's my 2 weeks now?
I think we need more data. I think we need more data. Just that one Fortune 100 company person. Is it Home Depot, by the way? I think I know this person. But anyway, like
no, it's not Home Depot.
It's not, but
it's,
like
it's not Home Depot.
If you take a look at that person, who is the common denominator in that person's problems? It's him. He is the common denominator in all of his problems. So wow. I think it's him. I think it's something going on with his team, with his leadership, with his ability to influence and persuade within his company. He doesn't have the standing within the executive team. He doesn't have the budget. He doesn't have the ability to add people to his team. So it's him. I think he is the problem. I don't know if we did a survey or something like that for all of industry. Are people leaving right away for $5 more? Like, I don't know. I don't think we're going to see that data. I think people are loyal to an extent. If you treat them right, you give them the training, you give them career progression, and you treat them like human beings, people will stay at your company. It is completely a human thing to do. I don't think people just bounce for money.
I agree with you, because the number one reason people leave, and Renee has the data on that, is because of recognition. Essentially, it's a work environment. It's your boss, right? So like I said, and I preempt that. I said, I don't know. I don't have the full data. I'm saying this is just one case.
You need the data. Yeah.
But I want us to argue the other point, right? Because I think it's really important, because we always point the finger one way. Maybe it's time to kind of take a little self-test of who we are as people.
Sure.
Because oftentimes when we don't look on ourselves in the mirror when we do this kind of stuff.
You're right.
So I have something. Why am I?
Please.
Paul's like, what did I walk into? You know, James and I just go at it, man.
Paul is like, is this what it's like on here? Yeah, it's.
You should see us when we're not on.
Can I tell you something? Paul what we're going through right now, for what Paul did in the military, this is like, he's like, stupid civilians. Look at these
This is a joke.
They think this is an argument, huh?
Oh my God.
This is a joke. Okay, so turnover rates in the industry. So I agree with Naomi. Leaders, especially Fortune 100 leaders, there's so many, I think, question marks that I have. A Fortune 100 leader has so many resources. Typically, they have like a huge department of training people and HR people and all kinds of people to kind of help support these early career programs. So in a lot of large organizations, they bring in swaths, thousands, hundreds of interns, of early career talent, anticipating, knowing that a certain percentage of this group is going to turn over. Typically in organizations, and I have some stats here, overall, if you're in a role in a lot of organizations under 1 year, you're 45% more likely to turn over. I think that was the stat that I found. There's tons and tons of stats, but pretty much 50% of the people that get hired within 1 year overall are going to turn over. It's higher, obviously, in retail. It's lower when it gets into energy, but on average, that's the number. Specifically in millennial and Gen Z, the turnover is high. I mean, that's just a known fact. So if this F100 CISO in particular, or deputy, usually, and I really don't have sympathy for F100 for a number of reasons. They usually, like I said, have the resources. So you have a whole HR team, you have training departments, you have all this stuff. You usually have people to help you support standing up these types of early career transitions. So the organizations that do it pretty well, they have a 1 to 2 year, typically an 18-month to 2 year rotational program, where you're walking people through, 6 months in, I don't know, threat and vulnerability management, 6 months in risk management, 6 months in, IR, whatever.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So you have a rotation. So a person is kind of getting the skills of security while learning how to be an employee. And so it is very difficult, and all the organizations, not all, but many organizations say the hardest part of recruiting is that early career, because you're pretty much training people how to be employees in organizations. Companies love to pluck a person after a year or two because somebody else already did the hard work. This happens across the board in all organizations, especially Fortune 500. So it surprises me that they're so shocked that, after 9 months, people are turning over. They're probably not doing the research or understanding, like, this is how it goes. It's in IT, it's out of IT, it's across the board where people are going to turn over sooner rather than later. And I would recommend kind of what Chris said, incentivize folks to stay or come up with a program that people want to stay in. If you're rotating someone every 6 months, why would they leave? And I get that, yes, they are going to jump for more money. That's just the nature of the beast. It's been happening for forever. I've been recruiting 20 years, and I remember having these conversations like 15, 20 years ago in regards to early career talent outside of cybersecurity. It was in IT, it was in finance, it was in especially public accounting. I think the way they work, or what I had learned back then, is they hire like 2 times more because they know the turnover. They know that a year and a half to 2 years in, half of those people are going to be gone.
I might be projecting though. Like in my career, I changed jobs every 18 months. Like even within Vanguard, I was there for 12 and a half years. Every 18 months, I had a new role because I was bored as shit. Like everything gets so tiring after a while. You're like, I don't want to deal with this. It's just so easy. Like you learn it and then you're done. You're like, I need something else. And there's people like that who like to do the same thing for years and years and years. I get that, but a lot of people want more. And like in our society now, where like your attention span is 8 seconds, it's like this to the length of a goldfish, right? Like your attention span is the same as a goldfish. Like you want to keep changing, you want something new. It's one of the core needs of a human. I think one of them is like challenge and variety, and another one is like relevancy and being included and stuff like that. Like if you got to hit on all the core needs, and if one of them is variety, you better get some variety for your persons. That's
Paul,
it.
you have some comments? You want to say something?
Well, it's like Naomi said, right? So you got a lot of people that come in. Let's take a look at the traditional entry-level application now. They're expecting everybody to already be trained so they can keep them longer. They don't want to pay for that onboarding training. And then what is the company's forecasted model? Are they a startup? Are they looking for that talent right then and there to build their A team? Because if they're building their A team, they're going to get tired within 7 to 8 months, especially if they're building a SOC, a MISP or something like that. So, I agree with that comment earlier. People don't leave the job; they leave their managers. It comes to a point where it's like, hey, I've been crying wolf about this, and nobody has answered my plea. And it's time for me to just pick up my roots and go.
But Paul, I think there's a difference, right? Where when we talk about entry level roles of people who, let's say, go get a security plus or get some sort of cert or some liberal arts degree somewhere and come into a role, to someone who has no experience, has done nothing at all, and comes into the role. And I think we should differentiate those two categories, right? Taking interns from a college who go to a 4-year school, who go into Fortune 100, because that's where a lot of those entry-level roles are filled. And those people leaving after 9, 12, 18 months, I think that's to be expected, right? That's kind of what you're getting. You're bringing them in. They're going to fill it. And typically the roles they put in are assembly line roles anyways, right? And what I mean by assembly line role is there's not too much to it. You can put anyone's butt on a seat, teach them how to do it for a week, and they can do the job. It's what I talk about is the frustration comes from people who don't have any of that, who are the exception, who is what Naomi and I are very passionate about. You don't need a 4-year college degree. You don't need a cert. You just need to have a passion for security, and you need to have someone who's open-minded enough to bring you in and train you. And I want to kind of do that differentiation between where that frustration comes from. Because when what you spoke about, Renee, is absolutely true, and it's part of any business calculation, right? I go to a university, I'm going to onboard some of their people. They're coming in for my assembly line roles, whether it be an entry-level SOC analyst, an entry-level IR person, an entry-level documentation, whatever that might be. I get that. Those people, that job is boring. It's redundant. It's budgeted at a specific price. There's only very few ways you can move up from that job really within an organization, because it's not like you have a new manager role that opens up every 3 to 4 months. In some cases, your management roles only open up once a year when you're doing annual reviews, and you might be promoting some people or some people might be moving on. And so there's that aspect to it. I kind of go back to the people who, again, don't meet the criteria, the people that we've been advocating for since November of last year on this show, right? And end up leaving after 6 or 7 months. I think that's where I kind of get a little frustrated, because what they do is they eliminate that criteria. You're not going to eliminate that criteria of bringing on onboarding from universities. They're just going to say, sorry, we can only take you if you go to University of North Georgia.
So typically, if a person isn't the person coming in also at entry level getting that same kind of a compensation as the person who you be bringing in from a college or university, or are they getting paid more? Is there some kind of expectation?
No. I think entry level. We talked
across the board.
I mean, we had the conversation about how much money people should make and so forth, and what should be the range. I mean, we've had that conversation. You hire someone to do an entry-level role, whether you have a 4-year degree or you don't, whether you have a cert or you don't, you're getting paid in the same scale. That you don't bring someone in and you say, hey, I'm going to pay this college degree guy 60 and I'm going to pay you 40.
Right.
So
they're getting paid the same. The only difference is potentially that this person has like no degree, no nothing, but a passion, and the other people have degrees.
Because those other people, so you brought up something, and what I'm doing is I'm kind of retorting to your point, because your point was companies calculate that they're going to bring in entry-level people and they're going to leave. They know that's part of their calculation. And that's part of your budget, right? Like, I know I'm going to have X amount of things that are just not going to go, and I'm going to have to over budget for it, right? and so forth. I get that. That's acceptable. The people who are breaking into security, the people who we take a risk on, the people who we say, we're going to give you a chance, they're not part of that equation, because that's a completely different quota. That I'm going to HR in most cases, and the CISOs go to HR or go to their CIO or go to whoever they report to and say, we want to take out of this budget, we want to take $250,000 and we want to bring in 6 people or 4 people or whatever to do this specific role. And you're going to have to show ROI on that piece of your budget. And if you don't show it, then it's going to be gone.
Because they don't have they're I guess sectioned off, or
right,
because they don't have degrees, because they don't fit into the criteria.
Because they're not part of the greater program. They're not great. So when I hire someone from a university at a Fortune 100 company, right, their HR numbers don't count against my budget. That's an HR budget issue, right? HR is calculating it. HR is putting it into their budget of people, right? And the business accepts that risk. I'm coming and saying, I want to go to an exception level. I'm going to the people who don't meet any of the job requirements per se, who don't meet those specific programs that we have in place for entry-level roles. And I want to bring those on, and I'll take it on me as a CISO. I'm taking it on me. I'm taking the risk on this one, HR. I'm taking the risk on this one, finance. And then they leave after 6 months, and then a year later, you're not showing positive ROI on your program, and your program could get shut down. And that's real, and that's happening more than once.
So I'm assuming that they're doing this and taking it out of their own budget because they couldn't convince the powers that be to let these people participate in the HR sponsored, tried and true situation.
Yes, ma'am.
Again, who is the common denominator in this equation? It is the person in charge. And I think if that person were better at just being a good team player for the business, they would understand that they're on the same team and they have the same interests. And it's not about an ROI for a particular team. It's how well the security is done at that entire organization. So I think ROI is actually higher when you pay someone less and they can still produce the same type of quality work as long as you guide them and train them and mentor them, give them resources and abilities to learn. I think the ROI is actually higher because think about how much you're paying them, right? You're still working 40 hours, but you're getting paid massively less. So I think ROI is just naturally going to be higher. I don't know, James. I don't know. I'm definitely on the other side of you right now. And I'm still agreeing kind of with the liberal arts degrees. I think they're massively paying too much for those degrees. I think it should be a lot less, but they're still important to society.
Very important to life. And so Shango says here, I'm going to put some comments up. It seems like there's a fondness for the liberal arts degrees in this room. 2 of us, I don't know about a third, at least 2 of us are fine with liberal arts degrees, and one of us definitely is not. Okay, people don't leave companies, they leave their bosses and hiring managers. That is true, but I think, and to James's point, this is a little bit unique because I guess the person is beating down the door like, oh, this is all I have. Please let me in. Please let me in. And then you let them in. And then 6 months later, they're going to go get something else somewhere else, which is just, I think, life.
But they wouldn't have to do that if we had more positions open for cybersecurity people.
And I don't understand.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
I don't understand why they're not. I don't understand why the pitch isn't putting them in part of the rotational program, the overall rotational programs anyway. That's a whole different.
I would love to see more rotational programs. I have a friend, Samara.
James,
yeah, go ahead, Naomi. I didn't.
Yeah, Samara Williams. I mean, James, you know her, and she's been on the show. Yeah, she's amazing. So she actually started her cybersecurity career in a rotational program in the Columbus, Ohio area. And she just went every 8 months or so, doing different roles within different companies that all said, we're going to get into this coalition thing, right? This group, this cohort, and we're just going to share we're just going to share the people. And they all learn different skills and in different industries. And it was great, different sizes of the companies. And then at the end of the day, they were like super trained, or 2.5 years later, super trained, ready to go. And now she's kicking butt. She's like a manager for a 14-person team at a huge national healthcare system, right? Like she's doing great. And she's still in her 20s. Like think about if we can do that at scale and just have so many more of those people won't want to leave because they're going to have so many opportunities to grow. It doesn't really matter where they land because everyone's going to be sharing information. Again, not something our industry does well. We don't share information well. Imagine if we shared people, information, resources, guides, like the things that the open source community is really good at. But let's start doing that at the private sector. Like, let's try.
Another thing I would also add to what Naomi's saying is that I think the preparation, this person, and I don't know who he or she is, the CISO, should prepare for 6 months, like goals that are, or have anticipate the 6 month, 12 month, 18 month, like, when people are likely going to get antsy in their role and say, I want to move into something else. Because to some of the things that Naomi was saying earlier, a person, if you get into some of these roles and it's kind of repetitive, after a while, you want to do something else. I mean, I've talked to a number of people, and even though they're not entry level, it's the same thing. And it gets to be the same thing all the way up the chain. So that's
no, listen, I agree with you. I'm one of those people like Naomi who gets very, very bored doing the same thing over and over again, right? Like, and I think job rotation is really, really important, right? And again, I don't know the whole story and I don't have the whole numbers. I thought this was a very interesting point to hear from someone at an event I was at on Tuesday. To say it's a trend, I don't have data to support it in any sort of way, right? But I think it's really important for people who want to break into security to also hear the fact that if you go to another company and someone's giving you a chance, don't be quick to pull the trigger because of a few extra dollars. Because sometimes the few extra dollars somewhere else, you're going to get stuck in a role because you took an extra $5,000 a year to go work somewhere else. But then you're stuck in that role, and the other company that you started at, all of a sudden, all the pieces fall into place. And now there's a huge trajectory, but you've burned that bridge, right? And I think one thing that's really important is never burn those bridges, right? Like, take things in stride. Don't let the first great dollar blind you when you get a proposal after you're in the industry. Because, I love it because I've gotten this feedback from people who go, someone gave me a chance. I left after 6 months. I've been at this company for 14 months and no one's hiring me. And part of it is because, HR manager could look at, now you're applying for a manager role or a senior or a supervisor role, but you don't have the job consistency. And in those greater roles, as you advance your career, one of the criteria for leadership is consistency, right? I mean, you go get a liberal arts degree. Yeah, that's horrible, but you did it for 4 years. So you've got some consistency that shows that you're able to stick to something and do it all the way through. You're a veteran, you enlisted in the service, you did your service for 7, 8, 20 years, 12 years, 6, however long. You've had consistency that says a lot about a person. And when you're jumping around sometimes and you go, why can't I get a manager or supervisor role? I'd say, look at your job history and ask yourself why. So before you're quick to jump the gun and take another position for an extra dollar, just think of your career path and trajectory and where you want to go. And then you've got to commit to something, even if you're unhappy with it for a little bit, in order to go to reach your greater goal or greater good of what you're trying to accomplish.
You have a point there, James. Like I don't want to see too many job hopping. And I think to me, job hopping is anything a year or less, like anything like 18 months and 2 years, like that to me feels about the right amount of time for you to learn something and get bored and look elsewhere. Right. So to me, and especially I'm projecting again, every 2 years I change roles. And even today, I've even told my company, I'm like, once we go a certain direction in our company, I'm out of here because I only want to do, and I'm only good at the growth stage. Like I don't like to maintain, I like to build. So I already know myself in a way where I know I won't succeed in those maintaining roles. I want to build, and I'm okay with being in the smaller companies because of that. Mid-sized companies. I'm really liking this. 500 or less.
You know yourself, though.
I do, yeah.
The statistics are showing that this generation turns over every 9 or so months. So
that's really short to me. 9 months is
I mean,
short.
it's
That's
short.
the problem, though. That's how crappy this generation is.
Well, whose
James, you
fault
are
is
the
that?
youngest person here. You stop that right now.
You're the youngest person here, my friend.
James, my God, you're like 34. Come on.
What a crappy generation. Questions.
But
Nathan,
see, like,
hey Nathan. Oh, Paul, you want to say something?
But it's like Naomi said, she knows herself, right? So these people that are getting into these entry level roles, are they actually soul searching what they want to do? You got 52 roles in cyber, 33 subspecialties. Are they really doing the effort and gaining that knowledge and understanding and doing the personality test?
No,
but we don't want them staying in the same roles forever. Like, that's the
Did
point.
you do that when you were
but you have a good point.
No,
Paul
but
has a good point. You don't want
you
them
do a
staying in the
2-year,
same role.
5-year, and 7-year plan.
Yes.
Right.
We want them to specialize in maybe one thing, but first they have to kind of get their feet wet and all the things to figure out what they might be good at. Yeah. I don't want them specializing in one thing. They're going to be not good.
Okay, Nathan says, question, do we have data that is specific on cybersecurity job changes, why they are leaving and what they are looking for? So Nathan, ISACA did a really good, there's a couple of different surveys that were done, but the number one thing is training and growing their skills. That's typically what people look for overall. They didn't say like this detail. I mean, these stats that I pulled up that were very, very interesting was around just turnover in general at organizations. But in security, most of the turnover is who has to go? Aw, James.
We yelled at him too much, or rather I did.
He's sad today. So that's the reason why people overall jump. But, you know, again, when you're talking about entry level, the statistics are there that this is what it is. Like to James's point earlier, 30, you know, back in the day, somebody stayed in the company for 30 years. They might have been punching that same thing 30 years in a row, staying in that space. Naomi changed roles every 2 years or so. I was very similar to Naomi. I was kind of bored and stuff like, oh, this is, you know, I'm not growing here or whatever. Like every year and a half to two, I was looking to do something different. This generation, this new, the you know, millennial and Gen Z generation are typically shortening that time span. So when you have millions of people doing this, right? When it comes to generation, we have to be able to shift. And so that's where rotational programs come in. That's where all this other stuff happens, where you're, you know, capturing people's interest for a small period of time, anticipating that in a year to a year and a half, they're going to leave.
Yeah. But think about all the people in management positions now. They're like kind of the old beards. We don't have millennials and Gen Z really. They're not really in the senior executive levels right now. It's still kind of like, who's before us? I forget. Gen X. I'm trying to think. Yeah, Gen X. So like I'm kind of right on the border of millennial and Gen X. So I kind of get it. But I see the people in Gen Z and the younger millennials, they want to be promoted. They want to have that validation. They've grown up with more of the applause and the praise. Like they're used to that. And so there needs to be a give and take. You can't just expect people to be like, have the mindset of a boomer all of a sudden. Like that's just not going to be them. And you wouldn't want that. You want people to keep challenging themselves and growing, and you want them to earn it first, like have them earn it. So give them expectations and have them meet them. You'll be surprised at how many people can step up and do awesome things if you just give them a chance.
I agree with you 100%. I think that people have to move. I mean, the what's fascinating is this, you know, James makes a comment like that, which you hear all the time. Oh, Gen Z, millennials, blah, blah, blah. The folks at the top of these chains that are hiring these folks, this is your grandchildren. These are your kids and your grandkids. So what you're telling them outside of the office is translating, you know? So we all collectively, if we want a workforce, we have to change with the times, and we have to be able to put things in place, carrots and sticks to keep people along, move people along, you know, giving folks, obviously you're not throwing away the whole farm, but think about Amazon, for example. I think that is now, because there's such a shortage of folks looking, you know, being able to hire, that they are giving out bonuses, and, you know, places are giving bonuses and like tying it to the bonus. Most likely, I don't know the specifics, But any company that I've recruited for or worked with, usually if there's a sign-on bonus or some other kind of bonus, it's tied to your tenure. So if you don't stay for a year, you have to give it back. If you don't stay for 18 months or whatever the period of time is, you have to give it back. So Zoe says, I feel like a lot of Gen Zs move so much because millennials tell us to, LOL. There's so much TikToks that are like, move where you're respected. That's very interesting.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, like, so think about it from the workers' perspective. Like, the company can just lay them off at any time. There's like, oh, well, you're no longer useful to us, just go. So it's like a natural reaction over the course of the years that is happening. Like, there's no loyalty on the company side. That's so very natural for the person working to be like, screw you, I don't want to work for you. Exactly. You don't even barely give me a livable wage. Like, there's like a post-capitalism thing going on right now, which is like the company doesn't take care of the community, right? And why should the community care? So exactly. We need to start thinking about this like critically, and it's just happening at a microcosm level with cybersecurity, where we only care about our own teams, right? We don't care about the greater good. And yet, does that sound really communism of me? Like, yeah, a little bit, but like there's like better ways of doing society.
No, it happens. It happened with Gen X. I remember, because I'm on the cusp. I'm a little bit older than you, Naomi, so I'm like on the cusp too, but more Gen X than Gen. And I can see both. And we saw our parents, work for companies for 20-something years and then get cut with no pensions and all this other stuff. So like, again, generations grow up seeing certain things and they're like, well, why would I go do that? Like, they were loyal for all those years. Then they got to go watch all that stuff. And then at the end, the pension gets yanked and all of these other things happen. So, it's not uncommon with different generations for things to change. But this is such a good discussion.
It's so good. But like, we can go into like economy and stuff, but it's so dirty the way that companies do this to us. Like, they make us scrape and grovel and beg just for like 2% raises every year. Like, just disgusting. They're making millions of dollars hand over fist. Come on, man. Like, is the point to make all the profit? Come on. All right, I gotta stop. I'll get myself fired. I gotta go, guys. Thank you.
We have to leave. We're leaving all now. Bye, everybody. This was awesome. Make sure you go to Paul's career fair tomorrow.
See you tomorrow, Paul.
More hot topics. You can't miss this show. Bye, everybody.